So let's do today's demo. Before, let's read our mission again. This should probably change pretty soon. So we ensure that a growing number of users have an empowering and delightful experience with stacks, apps, and assets. And then the way we are doing this during what we consider Q1, it's we're doing a bunch of things. What we're concentrating at the moment is finishing DNS finally, or reestablishing DNS, and also working on the wallets, both the desktop and the extension wallets. Now, during the past 2 weeks, there has been lots of things, but some of them are kind of under the hood, so they're not easily demoed. So today we're going to demo on the desktop wallet the test automation flow and some design updates around the stacking flow. On the web wallet, maybe Thomas can do an update of what has been done, and also for BNS, since testnet is down, then Hank is going to tell us what has happened, and then we can use our imagination to see like
Actually, I checked this morning, and the testnet's not mining blocks, but the registrar is running, and so the end-to-end flow is actually working. So we can demo.
Then we can actually demo it. Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. So Karen, would you like to start?
Sure.
Oh, sorry, I need to stop sharing, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, okay. Maybe something I need to hang on. I need to enable Zoom, macOS screen sharing settings. Bear with me.
If you want, we can start with another one and then
yeah.
you go.
So Jasper, you go first. I need to join.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll go. I got a demo for the stacking stuff. Let's see. Did I do my right screen? You're seeing this flow, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. So for those of you who weren't at the meeting last week, we're basically trying to update this flow to make sure that people make a well-informed decision when they start stacking on what amount they put in, for how long, and also whether they want to delegate or stack by themselves. That part isn't in this flow, but Gina and I were working on a little blog post that's like the one-on-one guide on what you should do, whether you should delegate, stack by yourself, how much, for how long, etc., and all the things you need to consider. But this flow is just for if you're stacking by yourself. So first off, we have this data on the current minimum and when the next cycle starts. But then probably the amount, choosing the amount is the most important, where there really isn't a reason to stack by yourself, because it's very likely that the minimum will increase and you'll end up with less reward slots. So you really do need to add a buffer, because let's say you stack 80K and then the minimum increases to 90K, you'll have 0 reward slots. And if you do 160K and it increases by 1, you'll only have 50% of your rewards. So that decreases, and it only really becomes valuable if you stack so much that losing some reward slots doesn't matter. So I think most people, we really do need to tell them, hey, you should add a buffer. So what we talked about is adding a buffer if you stack the current minimum, but it really, as I just said, it applies even if you have multiple instances of the minimum, so multiple reward slots. So let's say you fill in 80K, which is the current minimum. We can say, hey, you should add a buffer. We can add this warning message, and we can add it in the summary as well. And then let's say I do 90K, we could remove that message. But if you do 160K or 240, we really should also say, add a buffer, because losing 1 reward slot then is also pretty significant. So that's one. And then the duration. Also, what I've done in this flow is I removed all the confirm steps we had in between, where it was multiple steps. It's just one flow now. So duration, we got this estimate on when it will be completed, and a link to the post as well. And then add your address. And then there's this little confirmation where I updated these things to better reference the things that we think are important. And then there's also this checkbox that makes people acknowledge that they understand this stuff. And when you check that, you can start stacking. That's it.
That's really cool. I like a happy ending.
A good use of confetti. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Agreed. For me, my demo is going to be quite short. The context is simply that the current Stacks wallet is using quite an outdated version of Electron, which is the software we're using for it. So we're on version 8 currently. It is getting security updates, but we're already on version 12. I don't think I need to explain why, but it's important to keep software up to date. And especially so in this case, because in some later versions, they've added extra features, which has made it possible and just easy to do some end-to-end testing. So I've been updating all the software, Electron and all of the other packages as well. So we're up to date, and I can demo a short just end-to-end flow, the sort of value of which is that once we sort of get this running with our releases and PRs, we can pump out releases real quick and with quite a lot of confidence. So.
Integration test should come with music.
I don't know. I think it's kind of fun to watch it. You know,
wait
watch
patiently in silence.
The ghost in the machine is driving and it's working.
I was actually just doing that myself. That wasn't automated at all. Yeah. So basically, next steps from here is to just get this in our CI pipeline, run a few more tests, actually get it testing. Because right now it's just running through it, but actually testing the result, testing like the two main flows I want to test is just do what I've just done and check the result of the JSON config file. And secondly, create a transaction and intercept the HTTP request and make sure that it's formed as we expect. One example, for example, is like if I want to force a transaction to fail when I'm testing, I just like hard code a billion stacks in the transaction form to make it fail. But God forbid I forgot that and it got committed, and a test like this will prohibit that from ever happening. So yeah, that's it.
And so another benefit, if I'm correct, would be the ability to create universal builds that are Apple Silicon optimized.
That indeed, yeah. I'm not sure which version that came out in.
I think 12.
Yeah. Oh, in 12, yeah. So there's loads of new features, including I think in 11 or something, they introduced API for using the fingerprint reader on a Mac OS. So then we could have that instead of a password, which would be awesome. So
that's pretty sweet.
Coming soon.
Yeah, it is. So do we know how much longer will it be on our pipeline? So how much longer will it take to run all the tests?
Well, I mean, I haven't really written any tests. Maybe I should do some expectation setting that like this is just one flow I've sort of cranked out kind of quickly. The sort of complete test flows aren't done yet. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to have any issues getting these tests running on CI, but if I do, then I'll just contact some of my beloved
I will keep an eye on
team members.
How long the CI takes to run, right?
Right, performance-wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, for the sake of this demo, I've added a load of delays, but if I were to remove those delays, then it would be a lot quicker.
Much faster. Cool.
It'll be pretty quick. Right. And then you can always make it a little bit more parallel. Yeah. It won't be an issue, I don't think.
Yeah, I know, Karen, how much you wanted to do this. Like, probably since I started 2 months ago. So I'm really happy that you got to this point.
Likewise.
Yeah. All right. So Thomas, I know you don't have like much to show, but you've done a lot during the past 2 weeks. So maybe you can like, maybe talk through some of the highlights. Oh, also, like before we jump there, testing was not only the thing that Karen did. There are also a bunch of like little fixes on the wallet that were released. And they were released yet or not yet?
No,
not yet.
yeah.
Okay. But almost. Mark is testing them.
Yeah, it's sort of a conversation topic for after the demos, I guess. But yeah, it's in the works.
Cool. All right. Thomas, your turn.
Yeah, I was going to share my screen. We could just look at the changelog, actually.
Yeah.
Do you see it?
Yes.
So this wasn't in the last 2 weeks or so, but we have a new changelog that's kind of updated the process, and a result of that means kind of the content is a bit more interesting to read. Like we can kind of scroll down and see before it was more or less just a one-to-one relationship with commit messages, and then they just get put into the changelog. And so now we're using a new tool where it kind of forces us to at least write a little bit more and kind of be more kind of creative when it comes to release notes. A lot of the times it's typically the content from like a PR. But in the last 2 weeks, I fixed a few things. One thing was there was a bug we had where if you're on like a second address for your account, you weren't able to send any stacks or any tokens. And so that's fixed. And while I was fixing that, I did a couple of things to kind of, update the design to reflect kind of what's in Figma a little bit and start making progress towards like consistent ticker labels for various tokens. So you can kind of see here, when you switch this around from stacks to something else, it updates kind of what ticker it's using in various places. I also added a new toasts library to kind of notify people on different actions. And then there's another kind of bigger bug that that was fixed where kind of anytime if someone was constructing a transaction that had post conditions that were for an address that wasn't the sender of the transaction, they would just get overwritten automatically. And so that's been fixed, and I also kind of cleaned up a little bit of the code around that. But that's about it, really. Check out the changelog if you're curious.
Yeah, I really like this new the notification popping up when you press the button. Nice feedback. All right. Is there any questions around the web wallet? Cool.
I mean, Hank did something else too. He did some validation around the JWTs and stuff. So it basically cleans up the, there's some validation around like who sent it and stuff like that. Some important security considerations.
Yeah.
And not merged yet, so I guess that'll have to be next week.
Hopefully, yeah. We're crawling towards the publishing to the stores. Cool. Hank, your turn. Let's talk about VNS.
Cool. Okay, you guys see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm running sort of app.blockstack.org. And so this is like the older version of the testnet demo, but just sort of any Blockstack app that uses, I guess, what are we calling it? app.blockstack.org for auth. We'll kind of use this new flow. And so, yeah, we basically re-added username registration, but using all of our 2.0 infrastructure. So you guys can still see all this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
Cool. So we have the username set back again. Behind the scenes, it's using our newer registrar, submitting it, sending the zone file. And so, yeah, we're logged in and it all worked. And so that's kind of the magic. But, behind the scenes, you can see that Stacks.js is actually calling, our new BNS endpoints to verify a name. And so It's validating against the stacks address, that signatures match. And then, if we check this BNS endpoint, we can see kind of the same thing. And so this was the address that I registered with. It's got my zone file correctly. It's in pending status currently. And then behind the scenes, it would have, the registrar in batches sends these name update transactions. And so it's actually calling the BNS contract, the name update function with the new zone file. This is one that was submitted like 20 minutes ago. But yeah, if you decoded this, it would show, sort of test registrar.id, which is like the main BNS name, and then the new zone file. The new zone file is like an attachment behind the scenes. And so it's kind of all end-to-end working. Right now, this transaction is going to take a while to confirm. But yeah, it's pretty cool stuff.
Definitely.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So I see that's like a registrar specific API. Is there a secondary, like the standard API will pick up this too, right? Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now this is merged into master. So this is the testnet
Cool.
one. And so it is a little bit slightly different URL and response. Last week when I did this, there was an issue around propagating the zone file. And so there's a fix for this. I believe it's just not merged yet, but this would return the specific zone file for this subdomain. Yeah.
I have a question. So there's an issue right now in the Stags wallet where there are some problems where like Friedger keeps getting sent SDX rather than having it delegated to him and such. And so we want to think about building some sort of like feature to either warn when you send to a known pool, or also just create like a sort of drop-down list of known pools. And Friedger was on about using BNS for this. I'm just wondering like how that would work exactly and whether you have any thoughts on how we would build that.
Yeah. I mean, if we wanted to add some sort of, allow list or block list, one way could be to use BNS. It adds a little friction on one end because, to add something to it, it would need to use BNS. I'm not 100% sure if I would say that's the best solution because, even like the owner of a BNS name can change and it's just sort of adding more requests, but it's certainly something possible. Yeah, you could just like look up, you basically have a name and then you could look it up and then resolve to it. But, maybe a slightly more interesting possibility is that it could be possible to send stacks to a BNS name. So if you typed in a BNS name, you could resolve it to a specific address and register it. Or sorry, transfer, whatever. Yeah.
Cool, thanks.
So how's the registrar look in general now you have this wired up? Does it look pretty much good to go as far as mainnet deployment, or is there any concern that it needs still some patching or modification?
The registrar is looking pretty good. I just opened up this issue for, it's kind of like a nonce thing. Like if the subdomain registrar is issuing multiple transactions unconfirmed, then runs into the typical nonce type issues. But there's some workarounds for that just in our configuration we can do. And then, a relatively small code change. But otherwise the registrar is looking great. And then, that zone file returning like a buffer, there was a different issue for that. Tintash already fixed it. So otherwise, I think all looking pretty good. Mm-hmm.
Cool. And this nonce issue, I imagine most users won't run into this because it's a matter of signing up for two separate apps with two different usernames.
No, because the registrar is making the transaction. And so,
right, it's the registrar's address.
Yeah, exactly.
So that we do have to patch before we go to mainnet then.
I mean, not 100% because you can set the batch interval to do once an
Yeah.
hour. But ideally that could still run into an issue if a block isn't confirmed within an hour, which happens. And so we should fix it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just thinking about timing now for mainnet. Maybe this is a conversation piece for later in the meeting, but we should talk about how we want to plan for going live on mainnet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, let me stop the recording. Great job, everyone.